And we have seen growing evidence that the dangers to our country can come not only across borders, but from violence that gathers within. There is little cultural overlap between violent extremists abroad and violent extremists at home. But in their disdain for pluralism, in their disregard for human life, in their determination to defile national symbols, they are children of the same foul spirit, and it is our continuing duty to confront them.
That was President George W. Bush, speaking at a 9/11 memorial this weekend. Welcome, guys. This is episode 105 of I've Got Questions. I'm your host with the most. My name is Jeremy. Of course, some of you may know that, some of you may not. I don't always say I'm the host, Jeremy Jr. I don't really do that. I think that this, is more about this show than just me, but I use this as a way to talk about things that I want to talk about or that I have questions about and that I feel like maybe you may have questions about. Playing on that clip there, or why I wanted to start the show with that clip is because, you can't think about terrorism and not forget or never forget the terrorism that actually took place only a few months ago on January 6th, 2021, where this country was attacked by near 10,000 terrorists who attacked our country in a way where they were trying to kill, or at least they chanted, they wanted to kill our vice president. They wanted to kill Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. They wanted to do things to this country where they would reclaim the country. It was nothing but a coup attempt. And there's nothing that you could ever say that would not make it just that. It was a coup attempt on January 6th in 2021. And former President Bush definitely spoke on that this weekend. And many people, he alluded to it. He didn't say it, but many people are, quite surprised, taken aback. But, not everyone who is a Republican is going along with this hate rhetoric that the Trump organization, all of them, want to put out or want to keep going, want to keep breathing fire into. And, you see that Trump is saying that he wants to box or get in the ring with Biden, stupid stuff. I mean, that's a former president that is talking this way. A man that's over 70 years old. This is what he's talking about. When we have things really going on in this country that he doesn't care about and that his supporters have yet to really understand, that he does not care about them. And I talked about Trump on the last episode and, how his made in China businesses are, they don't care about Americans at all. And, to hear him even utter words about 9/11, it makes you want to vomit. I mean, there's a lot of things with 9/11, there's a lot of conspiracies, there's a lot of thoughts about it. And there's a lot of things that Americans choose not to pay attention to or just want to forget. They just want to live in these Netflix movies that play every September 11th. This cycle that we're in. But to go back to 9/11, or actually go back 9/11, 2001. I remember being in school and I remember I had to go to an office. No one really knew about 9/11 like that when I was in school, meaning when it happened at that time, because we were in school, we were kids. We weren't close to New York. I was in Jersey. We weren't close to New York at that time. And, I think some schools got evacuated that were a little closer to New York, but, I was definitely further away. And I remember going to one of the school offices, definitely in the lunchtime time, or period, I guess, or sometime around that. And I just remember that it was really eerily quiet. And people were kind of like talking about it, but not really at all. And then after that, I do remember people finally talking about it. It had to be around 2 o'clock, something like that, that, we were attacked, that the towers were taken down. And I remember actually drawing the Twin Towers as I was riding on the bus home. And I still have that I drew. And, it was just from my interpretation of what I remember from living in New York and remembering the Twin Towers. And I even remember back in the day, back in the day, when I think, yeah, we took a class trip down there. And I remember calling it the Twin Towels. That we were going to see the Twin Towels and messing up the name of it and just being a kid in New York and going to see things like that. And to not see it anymore, I mean, New York has changed entirely anyway, from where it was. And, you could say it's a little better. You could say it's pushed people out that never had a chance to compete against gentrification. But you can't forget the fact that, the skyline has really changed in a way where it'll never, we had an iconic skyline. And now, we just have the one World Trade Center, which is beautiful. If you've never seen it, it's quite beautiful. I was there. I went to the 9/11 tribute. Also, I've seen that. I've seen, the people who perished. Um, but you just got to think about, what that time period was like. You know, um, I mean, it's 20 years later, but it was kind of like the first time it was good to be black in America. I mean, the hate was real for anyone who was brown. You know, if you were brown in America at that time, you got a lot of hate. I mean, it wasn't just like the stupid 7-Eleven stuff that people say, or mock voices of Indian people, things like that. It was some real fucking hate, like America hate, like, and it was a lot of people. Like, it was the first time, I think, not only did Americans band together, as in like being patriotic, but they also hated everyone brown. And it was really crazy. It was really dangerous, I feel, for people who were brown, because we didn't have no information. All we had was what we were told. There was nothing. This was like the first attack. This was like, yeah, since, I mean, what happened, the bombing of the World Trade in the 90s. But this was a foreign group, Al Qaeda, got on planes and flew planes into our buildings, into the Pentagon, into Philadelphia air or crash site. This was the first time ever that we've seen an attack like that. Besides what happened on January 6th, 2021, that was the next attack where we've seen something like that. But for the first time, I think that American scene, we had one enemy. I don't think that anyone was being, not that anyone was being being racist, because they definitely were being racist at the time. But they were being racist for the first time, I think, really, well, not for the first time, because, like I said, with 7-Eleven, blah, 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 things like that. But it was like, are you Al Qaeda kind of stuff to Indian people, to anyone who looked like the perpetrators who crashed those planes into those towers, which happened, despite whatever else you talk about, despite what else you think, these people did that. Um, I mean, black people were more accepted than blackface at a KKK rally. I mean, we were fucking in. Like, they loved us. We were all together. It was America. You know, I forget how long that really lasted, but we were in. We were definitely people that people weren't worried about for a moment. For a moment.
The American saying we're gonna help you. They destroy one building and they destroy us how many buildings? And they say we're gonna help you. Where is the help?
I do sympathize or understand what some of them were saying is, yeah, your buildings were knocked down, but how many of our buildings have been knocked down? And so when you can't even feed yourself or house yourself, how are you going to care about somebody 6,000 miles away? So I can understand that.
So that clip, it's titled "What Does 9/11 Mean to People in Afghanistan?" And you really got to think of how we have been fed so much of the military is this, you can't talk about the military, you better support the troops, which we do. We support the people who go out there and risk their lives, but we don't support the action, right? And you talk about a war, the Afghanistan war, you talk about what went on in Iraq and how, they went after bin Laden and how long it took and how much money was spent, $200 million a day for 20 years. How much infrastructure could have been used or built up with that money to where we are now, where we left Afghanistan finally, and it's in shit. It's in shambles. There's nothing that what we wanted to accomplish happened. Nothing. None of it. We got the guy, bin Laden, but what else do we get? And you talk about what people really think about 9/11, or not even what really people really think. I mean, what did they say? 15 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. We never went to Saudi Arabia. We never ever even did anything with Saudi Arabia. Why is that? Is it because Saudi Arabia has a lot of money that it goes back and forth between America? Why is it that we never ever struck Saudi Arabia, where the hijackers were actually from, where bin Laden was from? Over 4,000 lives perished on 9/11, and hundreds have died since. From the chemicals that were released in the air, the dust debris that contain many human-killing contaminants. I mean, there are people still dying from what they inhaled during 9/11. There are heroes that have gone, that have just faded away. Their families know about them. There were the people who fought back on the plane and made the plane, not crash into another monument or whatever they were trying to go after. I think they were trying to go after the White House. But there are these heroes that, actually fought hard. And then all the soldiers who have lost their lives or have gone to Iraq and Afghanistan and have come back and been truly fucked up. from the shit they've seen, from the shit they've seen other soldiers do, from the kids they've seen die, the millions of people dead. You know, we talk about what happened in America. Over 4,000 people died, and many more are still dying. But millions have been affected in Afghanistan and Iraq. On Netflix right now, there's I think 2 or 3 Netflix new 9/11 movies, 9/11 documentaries that are just playing. Number 1, number 4 most watched movies. It's like a cycle of abuse to keep seeing this every year, and then, you know, especially when it's 20 years and then 40 years and 50 years, just to make sure that we as Americans support soldiers or and never go against war. But when you talk about what actually is in the 9/11 Commission report and how many questions were redacted and you can't really fully see who did what and who didn't do what, who knew what at what time, and who didn't act at that time. You know, people got on a plane and did this with weapons. They knew something about this. There were rumblings about this, that they were trying to do something. You know, there were Saudi officials who allegedly knew about this. And the only people to truly have suffered, I feel, besides the victims of who died that day, besides the people who died that day, are the people of Afghanistan and the people of Iraq. We've bred terrorists in ways that I'm afraid of. I mean, you can't say who and what is a terrorist, right? I mean, if you look at what goes on in this country, the terrorists who've attacked certain things, they've been mostly white. But you can't do that. You can't be prejudiced towards people and say who or what looks like a terrorist. And now we have people who are being exported to America because they're refugees of Afghanistan. That should make anyone nervous, right? Because we don't know who's coming from what, who has a vendetta against this. You know, there's a deep dark web where people go and be militarized by Taliban supporters or people who can't stand the government and what they've done over in different countries. That's why I said we need to stay out of people's business for at least 10 years. I mean, we don't need to be out there pushing democracy. We need to do it here. We need to take care of the people here. When they stop the war, where did that $200 billion a day go to? When they stop the war, where did it go to? Who's getting that money now? We were attacked by multiple parties, some of which allegedly work for the government. People who've worked as architects and engineers speak of how they've never seen a building break down how the World Trade Centers broke down. To this day, people still speculate about what really happened on 9/11. Take a listen to this clip with Joe Rogan and Rosie O'Donnell.
That Tower 7 one is the weirdest one of all. Because when you watch that one, I was like, why does that collapse like that?
Yeah.
Like, it's just strange.
And I'm sure you've seen the BBC reporter who is speaking on camera, and World Trade Center 7 is behind her, and she says, World Trade Center 7 has just fallen. It has fallen. It is the third building, and it's still standing. And 10 minutes later, Joe, the building fell.
Yeah, there's a lot of chaos that goes along with any catastrophic situation like that. And I think a lot of people are scrambling, and there's a lot of miscommunication. And I bet a lot of people were probably saying, if in fact it did collapse on its own, firemen were aware, I bet a lot of people were saying, hey, this thing is going to go. It's going to fall into itself. I don't know if that's possible. See, again, I'm not an architect, but maybe it's just such a crappy design that when it catches on fire, it just collapses like
But
that.
fire has never turned concrete into
No.
rubble in the history of the world, right?
It does seem ridiculous,
Yeah.
but I'm not smart enough to. I mean, I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd be completely stepping out of school if I was arguing that it's impossible for a building to do that. The idea that they all uniformly gave out at the same time, but it really did fall like free fall speed. They had to have this meeting where they we've measured the time. It's not free fall speed. Oh, it's 1/10 of a second slower than free fall speed. Well, that's nice. That makes me feel comfortable. Just crazy building just fell.
Right.
Just I know it was definitely damaged for sure. It was definitely on fire. But that's all it takes?
No.
Oh.
I mean, you got to really think about things like that. Those kind of questions. Is that all it took for a building to fall? You saw when those planes went into those towers, what that looked like. The planes pretty much disappeared into them. And then each floor crumbled in unison. Not like an hour later, not like how long it took when that horrible building fell in Florida recently. They all fell at one time, like you're playing Jenga. You're not playing Jenga here. There's no way that towers fall like that. You gotta ask questions. We can't do this anymore. We've gone too long where we've just been told things. And we've been told things and we just go along with it. It's why we work as hard as we do. It's why Americans work 4, 5 jobs. Cost of living so high. But you're not getting paid more. Meanwhile, all these companies that came from 9/11, all these military companies that came from 9/11, all these private companies that came from 9/11. Companies of war, they get contracts from the government in the millions upon millions. People speak about large groups of people who didn't show up that day. Actually, I don't know if you've heard about that. Large groups of people did not show up to work that day. I don't know the full scope of that, but someone knew. People knew that something was going to happen. It's all alleged, but you have to wonder. I mean, the Patriot Act itself, how that came about. If you don't look into it, if you want to watch some mystery scandals and whatnot, there's a bunch of things on YouTube where you could just gain a little more information. Again, there's a 9/11 Commission report out there. Much of it's redacted, but it contains things that you never knew about, that they don't put on the news, that they don't talk about every 20 years or every 10 or every year. That's not number one on Netflix. You have to wonder about when these companies make money, why and how they all of a sudden make money. These private military companies that go out and hunt people. Private contractors, they call them. There's too many questions there. And I don't think we'll ever really solve what really happened on 9/11. I mean, like I said in the last episode, if Dick Cheney can get away from shooting someone in the face, he's the one who really, he's the one to look out for when you think about what happened on 9/11. Current president, Sleepy Joe Biden. Awake, and pissed the fuck off. Joe Biden is awake and pissed off like someone's running around his house, like one of his grandchildren are running around his house, knocking shit over. He's imposing a mandate. A mandate on us, but not for postal employees. A mandate on us, but not for members of Congress. Where is the research? How can any of this have been researched so soon? People are afraid of the risk within reason. The first thing someone will say is, do you know what's in this, or do you know what's in that? You know what's in weed? You know what's in alcohol? Is that a way to live? Like an android? A drone? You must know that these companies stand to make billions. But we don't know what's in this vaccine. And if masks were mandated, we wouldn't even be here. Why force injections when you can force masks? I mean, it's so sad that we're all on two sides of the mask thing itself. You know, the bullshit that really came from last year with a president who decided that masks should be politicized. Now we're on two sides about vaccines. And we've always been on, I've always been on the side where a vaccine should never be forced. That I don't really trust these vaccines that they have out here. That's my choice. But I would never get on here and I would never get on anywhere and say, don't take it. I would say, do research. Make the best choice for you. But what do we have out here? Get the shot. The unvaccinated are the reason why COVID is still going around.
The mayor is going to fire you if you don't follow his mandate.
Words of anger, followed by a crowd of boos, as firefighters and police in Newark protest Mayor Ras Baraka's mandates requiring city workers to be vaccinated.
My body, my choice. My body, my choice. We as public workers have always helped.
I mean, it's pretty funny there with the my body, my choice thing. I wonder how many of those people, the men, are supporters of women's rights and being pro-choice, pretty much. But
even through this entire COVID vaccine problem, or when this whole entire epidemic started, we came to work every day. We did our job. Now the mayor is going over and above the governor's executive order, which requires either you get vaccinated or you get a medical or religious exemption, or if you don't want to take the vaccine, you'll be subject to testing once or twice a week.
According to the mandate, all city employees must be fully vaccinated against COVID-19, and any city employee that refuses shall be disciplined up to and including termination.
this is after you've worked for 25 years at a company, at a place, at the state office. You've worked 25 years. This is what you get.
Allow that to happen? What happens tomorrow? What do they look to take away tomorrow? This is all done by the stroke of a pen inside City Hall, and they just think it's good to go, and it shouldn't be that way.
And that's the thing that I keep saying to people, is that if you allow this, if we're all okay with this, in which we are, now the president's involved, where the president is putting his foot down and saying, we must. You don't know what's next. If this is the must, what's the next must? What's the next thing that we have to must do? We all got here for a reason. Donald Trump's terrible mistake. But now we're under the pressure of a president who doesn't even mandate the staff, the White House, to be vaccinated. Who doesn't mandate that the post office, the postal employees should all be mandated to have this vaccine. Where all members of Congress have this vaccine. This is where we are. And no one should have questions. I mean, it's getting down to a point where, I was worried about Trump and what kind of Hitler-esque person he is. But now you're forcing things into people's arms.
Friday morning after the president's speech last night at 5, a lot of American businesses are trying to figure out, okay, I've got more than 100 employees. What am I going to do? Am I going to require the vaccine? Let's talk to one business guy. Ben Shapiro is the host of the Ben Shapiro Show. He's also the editor emeritus of the Daily Wire. Ben, your company's got over 100 employees, so what are you going to do? Are you going to listen to the president? Everybody going to roll up their sleeves, or are you going to take a different approach?
Of course not. We're going to use every method and resource at our disposal to defy the president's unconstitutional order. And this is coming from somebody who's very pro-vaccine. I was vaccinated as soon as possible. I've encouraged everybody to get the vaccine, or pretty much everybody to get the vaccine. And the notion that the federal government has the ability to force every business in America with over 100 employees — by the way, I'm not sure why it's over 100 employees. Theoretically, it should be every business in America, because you can get infected anywhere, right? But every business in America with over 100 employees to either force its employees to vaccinate or force them to test every week or fire them, presumably. Hey, he said he came into office saying, I'm not going to shut down the economy, I'm not going to shut down the country, I'm going to shut down the virus. He failed to shut down the virus, so now he's going to shut down the economy and the country, apparently.
Well, Ben,
I mean, should you invoke the 25th Amendment at this point? I mean, this will never unify this country. It will only pretty much push people to talk about how big government shouldn't be involved in states' rights. I mean, that's the only thing that's going to happen. This is what's going on anyway, that the government shouldn't be involved in my rights, my freedoms. The same people who get Social Security benefits are saying this, but this is where we are. This will continue to push this country to the brink. Already people are out of work, right? People are out of work from COVID-19, 30 million Americans out of work, a housing moratorium that just ended, and now millions of Americans can be evicted. Now people are getting fired because they won't inject some big company's drug. That's the next thing. Not to mandate the mask. Why not mandate the mask? Why not force us all to wear a shield in public? At least you can really ticket that. You can force, you can't do that with an injection. You can't know who or what or who isn't vaccinated or what isn't vaccinated, because, animals are getting it now. But at least you would know that everyone's working together. There's no research to say that if you get the first 2 shots and the booster now, right? Because now you're gonna have to have a booster because your antibodies are now accustomed to this drug. You, every year of your life, or every 3-4 months, you'll have to get a booster. There's no research to say that in 10 years you'll be whatever. I don't want to scare anyone, but to tell a pregnant woman that she must take it no matter what, or someone who wants to have a family in the future who's 23 years old and is afraid of it but wants to come to work every day, or the company is going to get fined $14,000 if they don't follow along, play along. This will not unify this country. This is getting more and more and more dangerous. And you have people acting out. You have the January 6th insurrection. You have people acting out in ways that is more dangerous. I keep telling you. I've told people, I'll say this, get your legal gun permits, get your legal whatever state you're in, because it's getting dangerous. And when you can't go into a supermarket because you didn't get a vaccine and you just want to feed your family, what are you supposed to do? This is what it's going to come down to. Do you want to eat? Get the vaccine. You want to get air in your tire? Get the vaccine. You want gas? Get the vaccine. This is what's going to come of this. You want to go to the doctor and go to the dentist? Get the vaccine. Even though the dentist is wearing something on their goddamn face the whole time, get the vaccine because you can't get seen because you don't have the vaccine. This is where we're going. It's a slippery slope. We're going down the wrong route, people. This is why I like that this guy said, he's a person who's pro-vaccine, but he would never force this on his people. He would never do that. That's un-American. When you do things like that, that's un-American. Getting the vaccine is not being a hero. Wearing a mask, wearing your glasses over your face so that the droplets don't get into your eyes, and washing your hands and doing things like that, that's the right thing that we're supposed to do. That's what we should have learned throughout this. But instead, we're like, I hate wearing a mask. I can't stand it. I must see what people look like. I must see your fucking smile. I must see, you better be smiling at me. I need to know if you're smiling at me. Because that would be the only reason why you won't wear a mask, or that you don't think that masks should be mandated. Our kids don't even know what's going on anymore. A smile is what they need. No, they need to know what's going on. Why don't you talk to them? We're in something going on. There's a lot of things going on around the world. We have to do this, kid. This is how we save everybody. That's what you say to them. But what you don't do is stand behind them and chant and cheer and jeer and tell them, push your way in. Like Manchester High School in Detroit, that their parents did. Students, I repeat, students, with the encouragement of their parents, forced their way into their school. I mean, mini insurrection? January 6th needed a sequel, pretty much. This is what we needed to see. And, I find it funny on YouTube when you search for these things, because I don't know if you'll listen and look this up on YouTube. YouTube will always kind of hide things. I don't know why it does that. But if you filter on YouTube, you'll see the most current thing. So if you look this up, you'll see, if you type in kids push their way into school without masks, you won't find it. It'll be hidden. But if you hit the filter on YouTube, you'll be able to hit the filter that says play from this month or whatever, this week or whatever. Here you go.
Don't want to go in? You don't have to.
After confirming police will not stop them.
I'm not going to force anybody. I'm not putting masks on anybody. That's not my job.
Manchester High parents encourage their kids to ignore the staff at the door and go inside without masks.
You guys, they can't touch you. Just go ahead and go in.
Finally, the students are allowed in, and after some unintended irony,
be kind and respectful.
They were taken to the library, apart from everyone else.
It's absolutely insane.
This Manchester parent believes in masking up, but thinks it should be everyone's choice. The insanity isn't the mob mentality, as he says in the video, but the hypocrisy of the health department.
They have no problem allowing 110,000 people in the big house to scream and yell and breathe all over each other.
And that's the thing. When you talk about the coronavirus and what's going on, the vaccinated can infect the vaccinated. That's not true. Okay? The vaccinated can infect the vaccinated. The vaccinated can infect the unvaccinated. We're all in this together, but we're being pitted against each other. And there's no end to this because we're still on both sides. We have both sides on if we're going to take the vaccine or not, and then we have both sides on if we're going to wear a mask or not. What the fuck is going on? Where are we? This is the Twilight Zone. And you could watch this stuff and realize this is literally the Twilight Zone. Someone asked, where's Black Mirror? And someone said, this is Black Mirror. You never watched Black Mirror on Netflix. It's amazing. But this is what it feels like. Take the vaccine or unvaccinated. Two sides. Mask, no mask. Two sides. What do we do? The greatest option is to go with the mask, because at least you're not putting your hands on people. At least you're not invoking something into a person's beliefs or, their body, as these people were chanting, my body, my choice, except for when it comes to abortions in Texas. We're going down a slippery slope. And I don't know what's next. It's getting worse. It's getting worse and worse. And Joe Biden's doing nothing but agitating people. Instead of bringing people together, he's separating them more and more. I would never say Trump, okay? Because Trump would, allow the spraying of the coronavirus onto your food before Joe Biden would ever do that. That man, he has to go. He has to go. Someone else must stand up. Someone who's going to take care of all Americans. And this is not a racist thought. It can't be a white man. Because a white man is not thinking about the workers of America. 2/3 of American people, will be affected by this mandate that he's pushing. And he hasn't even done anything with race in America. I mean, black people are still waiting to see, what they voted for. He told black people, if they didn't vote for him, they weren't black. We're not black if we don't vote for Joe Biden. And what has he done for black people? George and Travis McMichael armed themselves and pursued Ahmaud Arbery in a pickup truck on February 23rd, 2020, after they spotted Arbery running in their neighborhood just outside the coastal city of Brunswick. Their neighbor, William Rody Bryan Jr., joined the chase and took cell phone video showing Travis McMichael shooting Arbery with a shotgun. Greg McMichael told police they suspected Arbery was a burglar, and Travis McMichael shot him in self-defense after chasing him down and killing him like a dog. Prosecutors have said Arbery was unarmed and was carrying no stolen items when he was killed. So even if he stole something, even if he fit the description of someone who was stealing something around the neighborhood, on this day, on February 23rd, he had no stolen items, but he was still shot. The McMichaels weren't charged in the killing for more than 2 months and shooting and killing Ahmaud Arbery. Now, the former district attorney, Jackie Johnson, or Jacqueline Johnson, she has a nickname, Jackie Johnson. You should see her mugshot. She was arrested today for her role in the cover-up of the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, which could be any one of us, by the way. You could be gay, have a gay flag on, and one of these guys could just come down and say this is what they did or saw you do or whatever, and then you're dead. And then you have someone who works in the police office, who works with the police, who hides her hands and the nasty things that they do. How many cases?
Here's an arrest in connection with the death of.
How many cases do you think that she's done this to? Check this out.
Ahmaud Arbery. Changing gears, an arrest in connection with the death of Ahmaud Arbery. A former Georgia district attorney is now facing violation of oath and obstruction charges. A Glenn County grand jury handed down a criminal indictment against Jackie Johnson, where documents indicate she told two Glenn County police officers not to arrest Travis McMichael, the man who shot and killed Arbery. The indictment also says Johnson failed to, quote, treat Ahmaud Arbery and his family fairly and with dignity.
I mean, how many more years of this can we really take? You have to really wonder how many more years can black people, under the stress of all the media they have to see where police are regarded in high forums, and then also be seen shooting and murdering people, right? Who were unarmed, running, walking away with no gun. I seen a video just recently, a few days ago, where a cop pulled up on the scene and a guy ran away. You know, you got to remember, people have PTSD from the police. And if you don't know that, now you do. That's a real thing. We've been shown this over and over, where they have their necks, their knees on our necks, where they're shooting people 43 times because a person had their wallet. You have a former district attorney who saw the video of them chasing down Ahmaud Arbery, shooting him with a shotgun, running around the streets with a shotgun, and then shooting a man in his back as he tried to run away because he was just running. He was jogging. He was enjoying life, getting vitamin D, living. He was just being black. He was just being a human. And he was shot down. And the person who's supposed to protect the rights of the public says don't arrest those men, and doesn't arrest them for 2 months, while Ahmaud Arbery's family had to cry and cry over his dead body, while they got to go eat pizza and ribs and whatever other bullshit that these country motherfuckers were eating. All with the help of the district attorney? How do you not look back at the cases that she's done? How do you not look back at those cases? How do you not look back at any case at this point? When you have people who do things like this, you watch things like The Wire, and you say, oh, what a great show. It's a great show. But you never put two and two together that this is not just a show. It's fucking reality. True reality for many, millions of people in this country. But no one wants to say there must be real change. Defunding the police doesn't mean getting rid of all police officers. Defunding the police means starting over, because we can. We can start over. The police don't need to be militarized. They don't need to be riding around in black vehicles where you can't see them and they're hiding. We need to know that the police are there to protect us. Make them wear green, pink. Instead, we arm them like they're in Call of Duty to reign over people. The first thing we do is use brute force. And now we have citizens who run down people with shotguns and chase people because they think this is the guy, that's him. There he is. Come on, Ronnie. He's getting away. Dead. That could be me, walking my dog, just enjoying life, thinking, oh my God, how beautiful the sun is today. That could be me. It could be you. It could be your cousin. It could be your favorite mailman. It could be whoever it is. You know, you talk about the Central Park Five. You talk about a movie like the Netflix movie, When They See Us. That was real. 5 people went to jail for something they didn't do. Some were raped. Some were tortured. And they didn't even do it. But because they fit the description, the same description that they played with Cops for the 25 years that show was on, where they only really showed black people doing crime, as if white people don't do crime, as if any other people don't do crime. When is going to be enough? You hate Black Lives Matter, but you won't fix the problem. No one should be shot that many times. No one should be chased down because they're just enjoying themselves. Because they're bird watching in a park. Because they're going to a barbecue or barbecuing or swimming in the pool. We make a mockery of this Karen thing and call people Karens when people actually still did hurtful things. It's a terrible place, man. It's a terrible place. And then they're forcing injections in you. How do you come together? How can we come together? When are we gonna, think of the next man's thoughts rather than just brush him off because he's an anti-vaxxer? We have names for everything just to filter out what we don't want to hear and listen to. He's an anti-vaxxer, immediately shut down. Why would you not want to hear the fact that I think that it's weird that Bill Gates years ago said, and his wife said years ago that this would happen. And then they were involved in making the vaccine. Why would you not want to hear me say that, thousands of reports within the LA Police Department have been doctored? That there's gangs in the LA Police Department. Why would you not want to know that? Because you just don't want to hear it. There's going to be a bubbling point, where people just blow up. And we all say we could have just did something. We should have just did something. We should have just listened. We always say that when people die. We all say we should have did this. We should have did that. Here's your time. Speak up, speak out in any best way you can. Because it's not right. Our rights are being taken away the voting rights, to doing all these things, all at one time. Too much to even make you think about. But you must think about them. And you can think about them. You don't have to think about them every day. Take a day, put it in your calendar, say, what's going on in the news today? Post something, repost something. Let your friends know. Slippery slope, I tell you. But with that, I've got no further questions. Keep blessing yourselves. Keep blessing each other. Listen to one another. Listen. You have to listen.